Transgender people are individuals whose gender identity differs from their assigned sex at birth. This can mean the person identifies as the opposite gender, a gender outside the binary of male and female, more than one gender, etc. Transgender people make up around 3% of the world population and have been fighting for rights for more than 55 years. It should be everyone's responsibility to allow transgender people these rights, but they still have not been fully accepted into our society yet. The day after the recent election of Donald Trump on November 6th, the Trevor Project reported a 700% increase in classic crisis lines among LGBTQ plus youth. After his inauguration, Donald Trump signed an executive order to prevent government forms from asking for gender identity. In addition, the Trump administration has deleted many web pages relating to LGBTQ plus rights and healthcare, and ordered that by January 31st, 5 o'clock p.m., all websites, social media accounts, etc., that promote quote unquote gender ideology be taken down. There was also a change to the House rules on November 7th, stating that, quote, only a person born as a biological female shall be allowed into any restroom facility which is designed for female members of the Oklahoma House of Representatives, except as authorized for the operations of the House. This change was also made to the capital of the United States, which has impacted Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender woman in Congress. Despite this, the transgender community continues to fight for acceptance today, as it has been since 1966, at the time of the Compton's Cafeteria riot. When people think of the first riot for transgender and LGBTQ plus rights, many of their minds go to the Stonewall riot in June of 1969. However, there was actually a riot for transgender rights 3 years earlier, known as the Compton's Cafeteria riot. Compton's Cafeteria was a popular cafeteria where transgender women and drag queens met up in congregations. At the time, gender affirming surgery was becoming more of an option for transgender people, especially since there was a clinic opened not too far away from the Compton's cafeteria. However, there was also a large amount of discrimination and harassment from police in the city. Because of this, the Compton's cafeteria riot happened. No one knows the exact date because this riot was almost completely forgotten. It happened sometime in August of 1966 when a police officer at Compton's cafeteria was harassing a transgender woman. Someone had called the police to rid the cafeteria of them because they were being quote unquote raucous. When the officer tried to grab and handcuff her, the woman threw her cup of coffee in the officer's face and a riot ensued. Many people began to protest. Chairs, plates, sugar shakers, etc. were thrown around, and police car windows were broken. The riot forced police back onto the street, and the fighting continued there. Even a newspaper stand was lit on fire. Today, the Comptons district is known as the first legally recognized transgender district, and a plaque sits in the place where Compton's cafeteria once was, describing the riot and its effects on the community. As the first known riot for transgender rights in history, the Compton's cafeteria riot prompted several changes to policies, social services, etc., to make the lives of many local transgender people better. It also inspired many LGBTQ activists to begin planning and organizing to protect transgender rights. Even though people are still fighting for these rights, we have come a long way since Compton's cafeteria riot. There have been multiple other riots and protests since then, like the Stonewall riots. The Stonewall riots are commonly thought of as some of the first riots for the LGBTQ community. The time leading up to the Stonewall riots was very similar to the buildup to the Compton's cafeteria riot. The Stonewall Inn was a popular place for LGBTQ plus people since it was a gay bar, a place where LGBTQ plus people could safely socialize without much fear of arrest. However, police harassment was still a problem for many of these gay bars. This included the Stonewall Inn. On June 18th of 1969, 9 police officers entered the bar due to reports of them selling alcohol without a license. They arrested the employees working there, cleared the area, and took many people into custody for not wearing enough gender appropriate clothing. This was the third raid on the gay bars in the area in a short period of time, and the crowd was not going to scatter and disperse like usual. Instead, they saw their patrons being forced into a police car and rioted. Bottles and trash were thrown at police, there was shouting, and the police were forced to retreat into the bar and call for reinforcements. The bar was lit on fire, and the reinforcements arrived and put out the fire before it burned down. Around 400 people had rioted on that day, and the riots would not stop there, unlike the Compton's cafeteria riot. Riots continued happening over the next 5 days. It was a sudden protest against the constant and repeated police harassment gay bars and their communities were facing. The Stonewall riots would become a symbol of protests against political and social discrimination toward the LGBTQ plus community. It launched many organizations supporting LGBTQ plus rights and was a general turning point in the fight for rights in the LGBTQ plus community. These protests for LGBTQ plus rights are very influential to the general fight for rights in the LGBTQ plus community. It's our responsibility to accept transgender and LGBTQ plus people and allow them rights to have access to gender affirming care and to be able to live without constant discrimination against them. The community continues to fight for rights, as it has been since the Compton's cafeteria riot in 1966. Until those rights are granted and they can live lives without social hate, they will need to continue to fight for rights.